This is my baby.
I've been looking for you, looking for me. Your show is almost over. You gotta wait another week. Here we go. I've been holding out 'cause you're holding the key. Is it cool if I come over and see if you're into me?
Used to be an electrician before I got in this business, and I happened to be driving an old car because I had a lot of cars. Guy pulls me over and says, "You want to rent your car to the movies?" And then that was the beginning. Sucked me into the vortex, and that was 24 years ago. Yeah, we got a call to do this car heavy show. They did the pilot in LA, and they sent us out a couple of cars. Was the hero car, and it was the two 67 Impalas. And Eric, he's the one that, found the car. He just liked it. It was a very muscly looking, it was a, muscle car look. And they wanted to get a car big enough they could shoot inside, so that's why they went with the 4 doors. And they seen, they had these 2 cars at this picture car rental place, and it had spotlights because they were used as police cars. So I rebuilt those at that time, and they were okay for a while. So right off the bat, I bought a 3rd car, and we used that as our hero main car for the first season. And then I bought a 4th car that we crashed at the end of the first season. As we all know, the big crash, which I still have, what's left of it.
I'm a fan of the show, and been watching it for what, 7 years now? We're quite some time. And he's been a car fan his whole life, and it was just kind of a meeting of the minds, and something else fun for us to do together.
I say she's a fan of the show, and I'm a fan of hers, so
yeah,
that works out well.
Aww.
Yeah, actually, I've got a good friend of mine who runs a classic car rebuild shop up in Austin, Texas. It's called Georgetown Classic Cars. And I told him to look out for this car for me, and he found one over in California. We got it, picked it up. He started rebuilding it last year, and we just finished up last October.
Well, the car came in this color, and it's really pretty. And people know the car is baby blue, so it's kind of like, so when are you getting her painted? I was like, when I have the money. But then I'm looking at the car, and I'm like, it's so pretty. I don't want to paint it. So that's kind of like, it's still blue. It's not black yet.
It was blue, sparkly blue paint. It was on 22-inch rims. It was complete sacrilege. It was like, it had a lift kit. It was like, oh my God, no. So we bought it, and we named the first Impala Black Betty. She gave her life for Lilith. This is Lilith.
She was basically abandoned and sitting alone in a field, a grass field, for like 2.5 years. We actually literally grabbed her and drove her home in time for the season premiere of season 10.
I have actually 3 stunt cars, I have 3 hero cars, got some parts cars. I built cars with a stomp brake, which is a second brake pedal for doing slides, and we put fuel cells in them and skid plates and for going off of jumps. And so we kept on building more and more different versions of the car, and every time we did that, I'd buy another car. And then finally we ended up with the Hero one that we have now, which has the 502 big block, full Hotchkiss suspension, disc brakes, all the goodies on there. And that car there, when I bought it, was a 12,000 original mile car. It was just a gorgeous original car, and we went through it from one end to the other, and it's a beautiful car, and does everything we needed to do. It does all the big burnouts, and every time we got a scene that's got to do a slide, fast driving, we use that car because it handles really nice. Jensen loves that car because he's a good driver, and he likes to take it through its gears, as they say. A lot of this, the fast driving and stuff like that, he does, and does a great job doing it. Been pretty lucky, for the 12 seasons. So we've never had any major problems. Cars always run. They've always performed well, and no disasters unless we scripted them as a disaster. I'm always looking to buy more cars and more parts, and as the show goes on, we eat up a lot of cars and parts. I mean, to find a four-door hardtop now, you know, you're lucky to find a decent one for 10 grand.
One day he said, get in the car. I'm like, where are we going? He goes, just get in the car. So we drove.
So after a nationwide search,
Yeah.
I found this one, 20 miles north of here, of our home actually.
Yeah. 20 miles away.
In Texas.
Yep. Oh man, she looked really bad. She was in a junkyard, and just all of her parts were in the trunk, and
One foot in the grave. And
it was sad.
It had a straight frame, and I knew we could build from there. So.
Yeah.
This is less of a replica car and more of an homage to the cast and crew. The black is actually a custom cherry black. I like to think this is what the car would look like if Crowley owned it.
When we bring her up, people go like, "Oh, it's baby blue, it's baby blue," and they're like, "Yeah, you know, the black ones are nice, but your blue is so pretty." So
Everybody still wants to get photos.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to sit in it.
even if it's not black, they just want to sit in a car like it. So I think it's getting the feel of what Dean would be like sitting in that car. That's what the fan reaction is. So it's really cool.
Because she had been sitting for so long, I didn't want to take her on the interstate and run her, wide open or anything. I wanted to make sure I kind of knew for sure that everything was going to be okay. So we went through all the little back roads and back little towns, backwater areas and everything. So every little dinky town about every 50 miles had a little Casey's General Store. So
there's only slight differences. We have different mirrors. The interior is black with white trim instead of the original buckskin. The black is not tuxedo black, it's a custom cherry black that changes color in the sunlight. And then there's just minor little details on the inside, like the radio and whatnot, that are different from the rest.
But the manufacturers of the aftermarket parts are starting to build more trim pieces now because a lot more people are building the cars. There's a market for them to sell different pieces and stuff like that. So it's getting, on one hand, it's getting easier to get some parts, which is great because we go through a lot of parts. But to build on these cars now, it gets pretty pricey, So you'd be into it for 30, 40 grand in no time.
I hear the sounds emanating from my radio. I get excited when I hear a song I didn't know. 5 o'clock never comes too fast. Each day feels like the last. I know I have to quit. I never trust a man who promises. He's a boss, so he doesn't mean a word he says. The day turns in tonight. Let's get this party started right. I think I'll call my friends. Yeah, we're all my friends. And now you waited too long. And it's just another rock song. And you don't know the words. Whoa-oh, whoa-oh. But if we try to get it right, we can party on a Tuesday night. Screaming we'll be heard. Whoa-oh, whoa-oh. I hear the sounds emanating from my radio. The cubicle is small, I keep the music.
it's also a work in progress. I'm doing little bits at a time as I find pieces or, have money, time, weather.
We put the same wheels on.
Well, we
and
got the same wheels they have in the show, but we had to replace the original wheels that were like this thick. We got the corner lights
corner lights and
put in. We keep buying pieces little by little, getting them ready. Take the whole thing apart, get paint, and put it all back together new.
yeah.
She used to have spotlights. You can see right here a little hole where we had it filled in. She used to have the spotlights in.
As you know, they have the spotlights on them, the first cars. Problem they had was it was mostly Kim Manners, shooting through the windshield. They were always in the way. So we have to keep moving and moving. And he said, one day, let's just take those off the car. So we said, okay. So we took them off the car, but then the fans, the emails came in from all over saying, why did you do that? And I personally like them, you know, they're a great addition to the car. But yeah, that's where the spotlights went away.
So when I had her painted, I did not let them polish her chrome and redo it. I like that you can still see pockmarks and dents and what have you here and there. It gives her her character, it gives her her life. Instead of it's like there are nicks and pocks here and there and stuff, but it makes her her. It tells her story.
So you can't buy parts from a 66 or a 68 because there's no parts available. It's not the same car. They look similar, won't fit. So you have to find a 67 to part it out and match it.
You know, our living room was like a car part warehouse for a while. Boxes stacked everywhere and parts that we needed and some parts that we didn't.
Oh, plenty. I could probably build another car from what's left over in the garage.
And that took me 6 months to find the 2 pieces of dog trim. I actually had to buy it from 2 different people. One left side and one on the right side.
Tires, then rims, then pieces and parts and wiring harnesses, and there's not a bolt or a nut, bushing, anything hasn't been replaced. So a lot of fun.
You know, some things don't work. It's an old car. Some parts they don't make, or they say they make them, and then you get it and it doesn't fit. So it was hard. It's hard to find a lot of this stuff. And then, of course, then you got to start finding all the goodies. This took me forever. I had to sit in here and and I had to figure out 3 different kinds of white paint. And then I had on my iPad I had the real baby picture of the real babies set up, and then so I was going back and forth, and then I'm like really crazy about detail and perfectionist, and so then I zoomed in and was like, oh well, there's a scratch over here. Baby Dean and Sam and John and his mom.
13 months from beginning to end.
Yep, got the car done. We still had the weapons trunk to go. So we got the weapons trunk about a year. We had it ready for the con a year later.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Rick Blevins. He's became kind of like the go-to guy for props and all that kind of stuff. But
Rick out of Kansas City, he's probably the main guy I've dealt with, and he builds cars for everybody and anybody, but he builds a very correct car. Yeah, we did an episode in Chicago, and I arranged to have a car brought up. I believe that was a girl named Stephanie. I think she was out of Texas. It was her car, and they brought it up and did a shot in Chicago.
So they called Stephanie. So Stephanie's has been in the show. She needed props. She didn't have all of her props yet because, you know, she was 1, 2, 3. She was the 4th one to do the trap trunk. So me, Lisa, Claudia, Adam, Jameson, Steven, we all sent her our props for that shoot. So my grenade launcher was, you can actually see in the episode, it's pretty cool. And Claudia makes the dream catchers and some of the rosaries and stuff that you see. She makes the bullet box, all that stuff you can see that she sent to her.
This is the box that was in the episode Bloodlines that was shot in Chicago, and they used the U.S. car and didn't have props for the trunk. So a bunch of us got together and sent props, and I made the box. It was on top, and when Dean opens the lid, you can see the box, and I had quite the fangirl moment. And the boys actually got to sign it. So.
I'm currently searching right now for another one for a shot in LA coming up. So if I can get one close to LA, I'll use it. If not, I'll ship one of mine down. And the car hauler itself, we call it the baby hauler, which I own, and we tow around the cars. It's a Freightliner truck, and then I have a 45-foot enclosed trailer. And then I got a full tool room in there, spare tires, spare starters, alternators, everything we need on the road. If something, you know, breaks down on any cars, we can fix it on site.
You know, the best part about it was it was a family event.
Yeah.
And we made it a lot of fun. You know, our family got into it. Our daughter, our son.
I've met cool people that I will know forever.
I hold a brunch once a month for the Women of Letters of Houston. And we had 2 new members, and they were like really young girls, and they didn't know that I owned the car, so I took them in the garage and had her sit in it and then started it, and they were like, squeeze. Yeah, total fangirl moment. And so
you know those door-to-door salesmen? And so I open the door, and he's trying to sell me cable, and he like stops, and he's like, listen, I really like kind of don't care about selling you cable. Is that the Impala from Supernatural in your garage right now? And I was like, yeah, actually it is. He was like, holy crap, hold on a second. And he's like, Jasmine, he calls his girlfriend, you are never going to believe this. I just met people that have the Impala. And so I take him out, and he FaceTimes her, and I open up the trunk, and she's like, oh my God, like you hear her screaming. She's totally freaking out, and now we're like best friends. She went to karaoke with me last night, dressed as the darkness.
Driving down the highway, people honking at you and go like, thumbs up, cool car. So that's...
You can drive slow, and everybody drives slow right behind you so that they can watch and look at the car.
So yeah, we picked her up from the auto shop the day before we were going to take her to Dallas, to the Dallas Con in
That's right.
2013. And when we took her for a kind of a shakedown cruise, and stopped at a light. Remember, the guy pulled up next to us and goes, there's something coming out from under your car. Some liquid. And we're like, oh my God. So it was just the radiator cap wasn't on tight enough. But that
still.
was, yeah, when somebody pulls over and goes, there's something coming out from under your car. And it's like, you just got it out of the shop. And you're like, oh my God.
We're taking our victory cruise, right?
Yeah.
So I drove it down to Dallas for the convention, and there were 3 other Impalas. So we had a little Impala family reunion. I met really great friends through owning an Impala. Rick Worthy, the awful vampire, came out and saw the car, and he goes like, you know, blue's my favorite color. And he sat in it and checked it out. So it was really neat.
First con we went to when she was super finished was Dallas Con. It was insane. It was insane. The car was surrounded at all times, and it was just like explosion, man. Like she just got like a weird, like her own little quasi fan base. Everyone wanted to see her, everyone wanted to sit in her, and like that's what we built her for. We didn't build her to like sell pictures or like make money. We built her because we just wanted to drive around in her. We were like, oh my God, it would be so cool. But then we built her as we were going through the project, like to share.
Good people, you know, good show, lots of fun. As a car guy, I get to do what I love and get paid for it, so there's nothing better than that.
So, yeah, fast forward, we're up in Austin, Wizard World. And
This last Halloween.
This Halloween, because we know everybody's dressed in masks and whatnot. And I look up, and there's one that caught my eye. He's a tall fella. I assumed it was a fella. He's about 6'5"-ish or so, wearing a Scream mask. And it kind of sticks out of the crowd. Finally got to the guy, and I said, okay, so I said, sorry it took so long. I said, what do you want to do? And he goes, you want to drive?
Yeah.
He nods. Okay, he's not talking to me. I said, you want a weapon? Nods again. I said, all right, with a face like that, you need this demon blade, Ruby's knife. Let's get him in the car. I take his camera, take some shots of him. He gets out, and he it's like I was a valet. He palms like he's giving me a tip, and I'm like, no, you don't have to do this. I look down, and it's an AKF pin.
The pin with the
pin
Impala on it?
with an Impala on it, and I'm like, started putting 2 and 2 together, and the height and the size, and who carries these things around with them?
But he comes and he leans behind me and he goes, I think that was Jared. I'm like, no way. Said I saw on Twitter that they were filming last night at like 1:30 in the morning. I don't know how they could get to, I'm like, there's no way they can make it. But, I said, it's a really cool, it's a nice little fantasy, so we'll just go with that.
I chalked it up at that.
Yeah, we'll just go that secretly Jared came and visited the car. Well, not what? 30 seconds later, my phone blew up. He started buzzing and tweeting us because everybody was tagging us. And Jared has tweeted the picture that he took using Jared's phone of Jared in the car. But it was funny because I was sitting in the chair in the car, and as he was walking back, he hit his knee on the back bumper, and the whole car shook. And I turned and I thought in my head, funniest thing, I thought, God even walks like a moose. Oh my God! It was him! And everybody around just turned and looked, and I'm like, it was him! I was just jumping up and down. I started getting teary-eyed and stuff, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm 51 years old and I'm fangirling. Oh, but the poor customer that came next.
Well, yeah, that was really fun, because I was getting ready to say, you can say that you sat in the car just behind, and about that time my wife comes in, she goes, oh no, wait a minute.
I
She gets
shoved
in the-
her out of the way and sat in the seat and wiggled my butt all over the seat.
So I looked back at the lady and I said, well, you can say you were second.
I just noticed Jared and I will be wearing the same shirt in the documentary.